What's up YouTube? Today's video is going to be all about Reave. I did try to skill out a little bit, and I tried it out even with an MTX to make it show where I'm actually hitting, and you can see the area is pretty small honestly, unless you have 8 stacks, which you get with Vol Reave. And even then, it's not going to be as good as Vol Lightning Strike or even Frost Blades. I did try out Frost Blades again today, and it did get 300 splinters in Tropical Island, but Frost Blades is just a lot worse than Lightning Strike on single target because of the fact that every time you melee, in order to hit with the projectiles, you have to put down Hydro Spear. So every time the boss moves or repositions itself, you have to replace down Hydro Spear, which leads to pretty low damage compared to Lightning Strike. Also, Lightning Strike has around like 30% more damage on on Pob without even taking into account the projectiles, because it's a lightning skill which starts the conversion chain, so you get an extra part of the conversion chain from lightning. So for this video, I want to go over my gear and any possible upgrades I can make. And Reave, I am going to include a Deathless Feared with it. Reave is actually not too bad against the Feared because you're actually able to attack from pretty far away compared to Lightning Strike or even Frost Blades once you stack up all the charges. So the effective damage while being safe is pretty high. And I also did some other stuff, but in the end, Reave did not really perform up to par. I wanted to warn everyone. It's hard to justify playing it over Lightning Strike and Frost Blades, because as you can see, its clear is nothing special, and then its also damage is nothing special because it has no projectile component. So it just ends up being a skill that is okay, but it doesn't really shine in any regard when comparing to the other skills. And the main reason for playing it is because it's different. And I feel like that's the main thing for PoE for a lot of different skills, is that there's probably a skill that's much better than what you're doing if you're not playing the best skill already, but a lot of people just play skills because it's just something they enjoy, whether it's MTX or the feel of the skill. But personally for me, Lightning Strike is still the best, but I just wanted to go over some of the Reave stuff, showcase some footage with it, especially with this new MTX that someone gifted me. And lastly, I wanted to showcase a profile on Poe.ninja of the highest DPS with Reave, and just to see on Poe.ninja how many people are actually playing Reave. In the end, this build is pretty flexible for whatever you want to do. So for Reave, personally, for me, all you have to do, and this is all you really need to do to play any skill, is you swap out Reave for Lightning Strike, and then you swap this Awaken added lightning damage for Trinity. You technically do not need to swap out Awaken added lightning damage, and you can still use Awaken added lightning damage. And it actually ends up being only like a 10% DPS difference. And Trinity is kind of a bad thing because it's really hard to proc Trinity. Because the way Trinity works is that 2 skills need to alternate having the highest hit. And if you look at this, it's probably pretty hard for cold and fire to alternate that much. So that's why I use Awaken added lightning damage at the start, or for the most part. And in addition, in order to get Trinity up, you have to at least have like 2 seconds of ramp up to get the pen. And a lot of times the boss will literally die in under 2 seconds. So that's why I usually prefer using Awaken added lightning damage if it's even close at all. Now, the Reave setup is pretty much just this: Reave and then Awaken added lightning damage. And then I was able to convert all of the Reave damage over because I'm using Anomalous Fizz to lightning. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm actually not using Trinity for Reave. So I have this gem here called Anomalous Fizz to lightning, which converts 60% of Fizz to lightning. So if you use this and then you have the 40% conversion on the Watcher's Eye, you actually fully convert your damage over to lightning. And then you convert 96% of the lightning to cold. And then lastly, you convert 50% of the cold to fire with the cold to fire support gem. So this is actually by far the best setup for damage. So Awaken Wed, Divergent Multi-Strike, Reave, Nightblade, cold to fire, and Anomalous Fizz to lightning. So this is the setup we use. Now last time I tried Reave, I was using Anomalous Vol Reave, which ends up just converting the damage randomly to a random element. So that was actually not very good. But in the end, you can see Reave caps out around on my Pob at 24 million DPS, while Lightning Strike is at 35 mil, and even Frost Blades is at 20 mil with having like 8 mil of projectile damage. So overall, Reave is by far the lowest single target skill out of the 3 melee skills that I've tried. and it's pretty noticeable, but it will get the job done because it is actually a very pseudo ranged ability. Now, overall, I have been over my gear multiple times, and I don't think that there's really that many more upgrades I can personally make besides the claw. The claw is something I really wanted to get done with the tempering orbs or trying to buy a different base. However, I did look at the items out there, and there's not really another claw that's like T1, T1, and T3 hybrid or higher. So I'm probably just going to have to stick with this claw. Maybe Divine is slightly better. And I am still trying to get a different amulet. And the gloves, I still want to get full conversion for playing Lightning Strike. Because at this point, I'm probably going to play Lightning Strike for the foreseeable future. And when you play Lightning Strike, you struggle to get the full conversion. Because anytime you use a Fizz to Lightning gem, and it's just something to keep in mind of why lightning conversion is kind of hard to pull off unless your skill inherently converts Fizz to lightning. Because on lightning conversion, there's no nodes on the tree. When you play Fizz conversion to cold, you have 40% of free conversion to cold on the tree. However, for lightning, there's no such thing as that. You have 10%, 25% here, but this is for lightning spells only. So lightning attacks, you pretty much have to depend on the skill converting. So Lightning Strike, you can see here, has 50% built-in conversion. Now, the problem with Reave, however, is that if you play Reave, it has no conversion. So you have to use Fizz to Lightning as one of your gems. So Fizz to Lightning ends up being a pretty bad gem, and it's just 29% of Fizz as extra Lightning. And someone actually wants to buy an Intuitive Leap. I actually corrupted this on stream, and it's a Corrupted Blood Intuitive Leap. So it could have been RMR Intuitive Leap, and I think it'll be around 30 exalts. So it kind of shows you how crazy the prices are currently, because this jewel should probably not be 18 exalts, but not many people are corrupting it, and I think Intuitive Leap is relatively expensive by itself. So as you can see, that is the downfall of Reave, is the fact that you have to use Fizz to Lightning, which is just miles worse than either Trinity or Awaken added lightning damage. But it's pretty much the only way to fully convert the skill. Now for the tree, nothing else much has changed. I am still trying to probably get some better jewels, but jewels are pretty hard to come by, and you really have to search out a lot of Lethal Pride is what I wanted to get. Lethal Pride, I could get something a lot better if I, like you can see here, I get 20% stun duration, 20% fire res, 10% intimidate, which is the main thing I'm going for, and then 10% reduced extra damage from crit strikes. That's kind of crazy. I have this mod for reduced damage from crit strikes, and I'm still getting destroyed in maps whenever I roll crit multi-maps. I highly do not recommend people roll it, because getting hit for 5 times the normal amount of damage is just absolutely absurd, and would just lead to your character straight up dying. And for this character, the boots are pretty much irreplaceable. I still haven't gotten the move speed enchant or attack and cast speed T1 enchant, but I think the pen is super important for this build, because right now playing Lightning Strike, you lack a lot of pen because you don't use Trinity, and I'm using Awaken added lightning damage. So having penetration, the only source of penetration I really have is from Scorched of Secrets of Suffering. So getting that extra 10% pen if you haven't killed recently is a super good benefit. But now I'm going to go over the #1 Reave DPS profile I saw, because I think it's fun looking at how people build damage on certain builds and why their damage is actually so high. So let's take a look at Poe.ninja. So let us see the play rate of Reave. I'm actually pretty curious, how hard is it to get #1 in Reave? Well, 0% of people play Reave, so maybe I can't do this series or this, what's it called, showcase? Oh, well, there's someone who does 18 mil, which is a lot higher than this. So when you see a blue, that means they're cold damage. So if you look at cold damage, this person is 100% playing cold conversion, which is one of the main ways to get damage, right? So right off the bat, he's using 2 Paradoxicas. Paradoxicas is an amazing weapon for damage, especially on Poe.ninja and Pob. It is equivalent to, like, I don't know, like a 550 DPS foil or something like that, because it has attacks with this weapon deal double damage, and then this guy's blind on hit and blind on hit. So probably not the best Paradoxicas, but definitely very good. He has attack speed quality and the physical percent roll. So he also has Reave enchant on the helmet. Now when you get a damage this high, usually pretty much every little thing adds up, right? So you need to have the damage, the enchant on the helm, the enchant on the boots, and everything needs to be good. So this helmet is actually pretty mediocre. I don't really know how this guy made it. Did he awaken orb together a low tier multi with cold res? Hopefully he didn't do that, but it seems like he might have done that and got an int. I don't really know. It's kind of a tragic craft in my opinion, but usually when you awaken orb stuff like this together, you want to try to get T1 multi if you don't want to get elevated multi. Because I think he didn't even elevate the cold res. So this guy's gear is not like that expensive. If you see an item like this is pretty relatively budget stuff. Level 4 Enlightened, so he's running Hatred, Herald of Ice, and Anomalous Precision. Anomalous Precision for the increased reservation. Anomalous Precision is a pretty expensive jewel, so that's pretty surprising. He has 2120 Herald of Ice. So the amulet right here, this amulet is probably one of the reasons why his damage is so high. So this is like one of the, almost a perfect amulet, right? He has T1 multi, which is one of the main things you want on an amulet. Gain percent of fizz is extra cold damage, which is the other prefix that you really want. And then he also has damage penetrate 12% cold, which is actually insane. So overall, this amulet is 6 propped and it's all damage. So every single prop is damage. And I think 6% increased damage for frenzy charge is 30%. So it's kind of like a low tier wed roll. Now his chest is Pharaoh's Fur. So whenever someone has a lot of damage, a lot of times their chest has percent increased damage or plus level of gems. And in this case, it's no different. So he has Vol Reave, Awaken Gems at level 6, Awaken Cold Damage 6, Awaken Wed 6, Awaken Multi-Strike 520, and Anomalous Inspiration. So he has all of the Awaken Gems at level 6 and actually useful alternate qualities on it. So now let's move to the ring. So this is actually a trick that people use, which is getting aspect of the cat and putting less duration so that they can have 100% uptime. I think it's on the power and frenzy charges. I'm not 100% sure. But basically, this ring has a curse with frostbite and then wed and then some flat damage that I'm pretty sure he got through Ashling or something. And then this one here has onslaught on hit because he doesn't have a silver flask. So this is a synthesized ring, and this ring seems like it's pretty much used to cover his resists. And it's actually not that good for the quality of his other pieces of gear. And he pretty much just rolled this. Oh, he's trying to get flat fizz because flat fizz, I guess, is really good. Although he doesn't prioritize flat fizz on his other pieces of gear. So you can see here, like, this guy's stuff is like nothing super crazy, but it's definitely not like bad stuff. So here, when you look at someone's boots, is usually where you can tell how expensive or budget their gear is. So most people have elevated tailwind. So this person awaken orb together elusive and tailwind, which is just normally what people never do. So you usually do elevated tailwind and elevated onslaught for almost every single person out there. And I guess this person might need resist for his boots, but overall this is not like the best setup. So here is a big way to boost your damage, which is using 2 totems. So he has Ancestral Protector, Multi-Totem, Ancestral War Chief, and Culling. So this actually adds up to be a huge source of damage. Now a lot of people always wonder how overpowered totems are. And let's import this build. I'll show you real fast. So when you don't have your totems up for melee builds, look how much the damage drops. 18 to 13.9, and then all the way down to 10. So you pretty much lose almost half damage from not having totems up. And that's why this enchant Panopticon that gives you totem effect is extremely crazy. Because I think it gives you like 30% increased effect of totems or something like that. And then lastly, we have his gloves, which are pretty much just life resist and increased damage against chilled. Is actually one of the best mods for gloves for pure damage. And then you have attack speed, and then you have physical damage converted to cold. So this gloves can probably be a little bit better if he uses a hunter pair of gloves and could get... Actually, he doesn't have +1 frenzy on this. Actually, he doesn't need a hunter pair. So this pair of gloves is not bad, but you can again see that his gear is not top of the line. And using a life flask is almost a general never should you use the life flask, I feel like now. Especially when you can get overleech. And he has the chemist, diamond flask of dowsing, bottle fave, granite flask, and sapphire flask. These are pretty standard high damage flasks. Now you can see here, this is part of the reason why his damage is so high is because he has life and triple multi-jewels. Now, when your skill doesn't have a tag for multi, So this is Vol Reave, right? So it doesn't really have a tag. So you can see it's attack, AoE, and melee. The good thing about AoE is you can put conk effect in if you really want more damage. But when you don't have a tag, being able to dual wield your skill is huge, because that means you can get another multi-mod, multiplier, crit multi-mod, multiplier while dual wielding. And normally you don't have access to that unless you actually go dual wielding. So he's able to get life and triple multi. So this is a attack speed triple multi, life triple multi, and then attack speed triple multi. So if you look at his crit multi, it's at 569%. It's actually extremely high. So this person here is doing something really strange, right? So his crit chance is pretty low. I mean, Nightblade is generally a really good support gem, but I actually don't know if he has the crit chance to actually do it. So usually you would put Nightblade in, but he's not using claws, right? So you actually can't use Nightblade. So overall, he also has a really good watcher side. This is what, hatred crit and then hatred conversion, which is probably really, really expensive. And then he has a double pen on natural instinct. So he has some expensive stuff. And right here, you can see Might of the Meek. Why does the person use Might of the Meek? They pretty much use it to try to get AoE, because Reave is actually an AoE skill. So it actually scales really well with area. So he has this right here to get, I don't even know, why does he get this? So he's trying to get accuracy rating and cast speed, and this is actually, and some life and movement speed. Okay, this is like some pretty strange Might of the Meek and a natural instinct thing going on. I don't really know what exactly this does. So this is Might of the Meek over here, effects. So this is a large, so Might of the Meek is large, so it affects all these life nodes. So pretty much double Might of the Meek here benefits all of the res nodes and the life nodes. So he actually has a lot of resist, so it's actually quite overcapped. But you can see his life is 5.1k, and that's probably part of the reasons from the Might of the Meek. If you take out the Might of the Meek, then these two, you can see that the HP goes down pretty drastically, already down to 4.6. But basically he also gets a lot of area, and I think that's actually one of the main reasons for doing it. But let's go see what else. So what ascendancy is this person using for ascendant? So this build is like pretty strange, right? So usually people go champion, or people usually don't go champion, people go slayer, because you can get intimidate with lethal pride, and you can get fortify with whirling blades. So this might be better, especially if you want area. I feel like slayer is probably the better option. Then he goes berserker. Berserker is actually a really good thing, gives 15% more damage, cannot be stunned with 25 more rage, and it also gives you rage, gain 1 rage on attack, on hit with attacks, no more than once every 0.3 seconds. So overall, very, very strong. Wait, is that actually how it is? Yeah. So this build is a sword build. It's pretty much taking all the dual wield nodes. And let's see what his skill gems are. So Enduring Cry, second wind support. He has Call to Arms, so that's pretty good. And then he's using Hatred, Herald Vice, and then Wave of Conviction. I'm pretty sure he doesn't actually cast Wave of Conviction that much. And then Berserk, Divergent Blood Rage, and Blood and Sand. So overall, not really. This is like a pretty standard profile where the person is not really doing any tooltip warrior stuff or pop warrior stuff, and they just have a pretty decent profile. And they're using an archetype that's really strong with Hatred Cold Conversion with Paradoxicas. And they also understand how damage scales in this game, so they just stack the hell out of crit multi. And this is pretty much how you get a very high DPS Reave profile when Reave is not really that meta of a skill. In the end, this person's gear is nothing special or too crazy, but it does get the job done because it abuses crit multi, it abuses cold conversion, and he also has relatively good enchants on his helm, and then he also has a good corruption on his Pharaoh's Fur. And his Watcher's Eye is very decent. But so that's pretty much how you get a profile of this much damage with Reave. I think with my profile is like 24 mil. But the problem with my profiles is Secrets of Suffering does not get taken on POB or Poe.ninja. So no matter what I do, I'll always be a noob. So if you look at like streamers and you go to Berserkers, I'm like 4.2 mil Lightning Strike. But if you take this profile, put it into Poe.ninja, POB, it goes to like 35 million. So don't really trust what you see on there, especially when you see my name. I'm actually not that bad. But yeah. So now I'm going to showcase Deathless Feared with Reave and some other fights. So Reave is definitely doable, but it's definitely not the best option for us. I hope the fight really showcases how big of an advantage range is over melee. A lot of times you play Frostblades, you pretty much have to be right on the mob. And even like Lightning Strike, you can kind of range it a little bit and just use projectiles. Reave is the same thing. You can like kind of hit with a pretty big radius after you build up the charges. And that really allows you to actually dodge stuff. When you're actually pure melee in a fight, it makes it really, really bad. So pure melee, like Frostblades a lot of times, you pretty much have to be... It's a DPS race, right? You have to kill the boss before he moves and does a lot of stuff on the ground that you just can't dodge. So that's why I highly prefer Lightning Strike for bossing. And it also doesn't require using a Hydra Spear every single time the boss moves. So that's my 2 cents about whether you should play Frostblades, Lightning Strike, or Reave. Please choose Lightning Strike. It's a higher scaling ability because it's lightning. It's built-in conversion to lightning. And it also has a vol skill that is absolutely insane and lasts for 6 seconds, which leads to insane damage increase. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy these videos explaining how these people reach absurd numbers with some skills. And you can see in the end, it's all about crit multi and conversion. But I hope you find more mirrors and exalts than I do, and see you next time. Bye.